What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Projects. Welcome back to review our second episode of the final battle, which is our fourth episode of reviewing overall, minus a few specials. I am your host, PLD. I'm here, as always, with Lego. My friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I am still riding on the high of that horse battle. Never you fear.
Oh yeah, I can't wait till we get to the series episode because it's going to come back all in like great fun. You're going to like be excited to talk about that again. Hey, I can't fight you on that because that was probably a highlight of the final battle for me as well. But we had a couple other highlights, I think, this episode. Definitely the most action-oriented episode so far. I think it's pretty much nonstop action. We talked about how the final battle is less social, more action, and this one, although the first episode of the final battle still had those moments, the anti-abortion talk and everything else, or the abortion argument, I should say, but this one was pretty much straightforward action. We get a few good character beats, a couple of great character moments, many of which involve Ruby. But overall, this is definitely the face of we're going to have the Resistance and Visitors battle for about an hour and a half. What were your overall thoughts of this episode?
My overall thoughts was we've been kind of comparing this lightly to Star Wars, but this is when I realized this is not Star Wars. This is a Western with aliens.
That's a good point. I like that.
And it's still fundamentally about, people trying to resist being taken over by a seemingly stronger force, and it's kind of the triumph of forces, and we're gonna prevail because we have, we can work together and we have faith in each other. But this was just action.
I got to tell you, I've watched this many times. I've watched this many times in my life, but I didn't realize how much they actually packed into this like hour 40-minute episode. Like I forget exactly how long it is without commercials, but an hour 30, an hour 40. I remember like looking at the end, looking at my watch, and there's like 13 minutes left of this episode, and we're like just barely doing the water treatment plant raid. And I remember there's so much afterwards, and it's like, oh my god, this just doesn't let up.
This episode didn't really breathe as much. A lot of the rest of them do. I wish that it actually had been a little bit more. There were times where it would cut to like just a new scene.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, did I skip something?
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a great point.
Or it's just like action beat, cut to next action beat with nothing really in between other than maybe like a reference to them going to the next action beat. It was just thing after thing after thing.
It was
not great writing, but time crunch, I get it.
I guess sometimes you got to get the action beats done. They do manage to squeeze in a few great moments, which we will get to. But let's start off right from the beginning. As a big Michael Ironside fan and a big Ham Tyler from the series fan, this is my time to shine. Ham Tyler gets a great intro right from the beginning. He's spouting off these like macho 80s like cold badass like lines. Move the M16 or I'll make you eat it. Macho posturing, doesn't give a fuck about anybody. Like they're all trying to like throw guns at him. He's like, whatever. I'm still gonna shoot my camera. And you get this great little scene between the actual badass and the characters like Sancho and Mark, who are trying to be badass but kind of failing miserably when you see the real thing.
Yeah, I like how originally they come, with their guns at him at the like water treatment plant that is Rebellion HQ, if you will.
Right.
And they immediately just turn the guns on them. Like, you think you have me? No, no, no. I have you. I have you to rights with, this is very important, Chris Farber, who is in real life Mickey Jones.
Mickey Jones.
It is amazing.
I love me some Mickey Jones. I'm a big guy like Mickey myself, seeing Mickey in an action role sequence like this and being just as badass as Michael Ironside. I mean, he has these lines that he's like, he doesn't care about danger. He's laughing his ass off the whole time during danger. I mean, we'll get to it. The water treatment plant. I remember like the whole thing where like the bombs have to be between a certain degree level, like 60 and 72. And Ham asks him what they're at, like what degree level they're at. And he looks at the gauge, just goes, I got 72. Who are you?
I love that he's not necessarily like a wild card, but just like this guy who's just, I know exactly what I'm working with, and
Yeah.
I'm making light of it, but what he's working with that he's making light of is explosives.
Right. He just laughs in the face of death. That's what it is. Like, this is something he does every day. This is what he and Ham do every day. And what great chemistry Michael and Mickey have. They really just bounce off each other very well. You can tell it's like sometimes you put these characters together, they don't really gel right away. I mean, right from the get go, you know these guys have worked together for years and are like a well-oiled machine. While
Yeah, they
Sancho
definitely
and
have a
Mark are
really
not.
great, like, shorthand
Yeah, right.
between them on screen. That's really great.
So of course, when Sancho and Mark think they have the drop on them, they get turned around, and Ham immediately like, bring me to your boss. And they go downstairs, and all God, the resistance is all all amok, running and free. What's going on? And then we get this great scene for me. I love my favorite ones. Michael Ironside basically versus Mark Singer.
Yes.
Julie's not here. Obviously, Julie is captured, whatever. And Donovan is obviously at this point, he's the guy in charge, which is interesting when you get to see how far he's come from like not being a part of the team, being an outsider. Now he's like kind of the head man. Everybody like kind of looking to him to see what's going on. But I love the fact that he comes and says, well, what's going on? And all of a sudden, Ham just kind of steps out of the shadows or behind Chris. And you get this the Mark Singer face of, oh, well, now.
See, that's where I realized that was the exact moment I realized this is a Western because he's doing I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but I'm like, this is the most Clint Eastwood. He's even like got the squinty eyes. I'm like, okay, I see what's happening now. I get it. This has been reframed in my mind.
Right? I get that's really true. I mean, they want to do Star Wars, but they're definitely showing. But Star Wars has a history of a little bit of Western as well, samurai type behavior as well. So it definitely fits that mold. But this is definitely like Enrico Morricone kind of score playing in the background. Donovan Ham having their little showdown. Each one of them trying to like out macho the other in their own way. But it's kind of cool. You see that they have a history too. Like I think I mentioned it before, like in the novelization, we see that Donovan and Ham kind of run into each other a few times, and they make mention of a few of those times together. Donovan's like filmed them a lot, knows who they are. But I love the fact that Donovan's still kind of feeling his way around being a leader. He's got his crew. He's got his friends there. He knows that Ham's for real, so you can't dismiss him. But he's not going to let Ham just waltz in and take over.
Yeah, but I think it's the way that Ham does things that Donovan takes issue with
Mm,
because Ham, I don't is he's supposed to be military, right? I don't think it's
right.
expressly
I believe
stated.
it's CIA, ex-CIA kind of thing. That's what I
Yeah, but it's
remember.
something where he kills.
Yes.
Like he's not like an arms dealer, but you get the sense that he is kind of nefarious, like in that same vein. Like a very like bad, intense guy who can end you. And
Absolutely.
he will end you, more to the
Mhm.
point. Whereas he refers to Donovan as gooder, as in like do gooder, because that's as we've seen, that's really not what Donovan is necessarily about. He'll risk everything to save everyone.
Right, right.
That's more him. And I like having Ham Tyler in here, especially when we get Julie back, because then it creates less of a tension between Donovan and Julie, and it has this third party that they can kind of butt heads with. That way, the show still has tension without it being tension between them. So it allows more camaraderie between them.
Agree, because they've been kind of building up the relationship already, as we saw. Like obviously, by the time the final battle started, Donovan and Julie had gotten closer. They still had kind of that little mini friction, but it wasn't there as much. Ham just introduces that new friction, and what I like more about this too, it's not just Ham and Chris coming in; it's the background information, which we don't hear much about later on, or for now anyway. A little bit more later on, that Ham and Chris are part of a worldwide organization. And
Yes.
that is fascinating to me. And he comes in there basically like, you did your little stunt, you got a little stunt, but now you're going to join us. We got the real things. We got new ammunition that's going to help take over. You're going to do what you're told, basically. We're in charge now. We're taking you over.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting to see how they react to
Like,
that.
it was really smart because they made so much attention and brought so much attention, to themselves when they were revealing John at, like, the medical center.
Right.
But, this has some pluses and minuses, the big one being the visitors now know where they are, which
Right.
is the main reason Ham came there, but also he notes that, these are a group of people they can use to help them fight the visitors, but they're just going to get themselves killed
Right.
because they're, while they're organized, they don't have the right tools to do the job, and they're not doing the job
No, these are
right.
scientists, priests, these are criminals. These aren't like Ham is a military guy. This is what he does. He organizes resistances, guerrilla resistances. Obviously, this is his field. Donovan's a cameraman, and he's like that's one of the best they got. Mark is a cop, and you saw how quickly Ham fooled Mark, who can't handle it. Who can't handle it? He hates Ham. That Ham stood him up. He has the whole thing calling him a warmonger, and that kind of lasts throughout the rest of this episode, which makes sense as well. But again, like you said, yeah, they know who they are. That's actually the best part of it. Because Ham kind of gives his pitch, and he even said, Donovan may hate my guts, but he'll tell you I know what I'm doing. And Donovan's like, you don't get it. They know we're here, which is when Ham goes, that brings me to my next point. And sure enough, that's when Father Andrew comes in and says the visitors are on their way. Now, interestingly enough, we learned really quickly it was not Julie who broke. At the end of the episode, they kind of left it vague as to who gave them the information of where the resistance was. It was our friend Dan Pasco.
Jason Miller, no.
He gave him up. He gave him up. I mean, he was never exactly I never got a sense that he was a strong character anyway, so it didn't surprise me too much.
I feel like they had Dick Miller for a day.
That's pretty much what it is.
For a day. Do what you got to do. And then he gets killed by Brian. I literally wrote in my own notes, oh no, Brian killed Dick Miller.
What's always funny about that to me is like the visitor laser weapons. It's totally inconsistent. Like when Donovan gets shot in like the original miniseries, when he gets first captured with him and Tony, he has this big like hole in his shirt, this burn in his shirt. Dick Miller gets killed and like you don't see anything at all. It's just like the blast hits and that's it. He just goes down. It's like
we talked about this. It's Star Trek rules. They set their phasers to stun or kill. There's layers. I guess we should just be lucky they don't have set phasers to incinerate.
There you go. That's true. They do later on in the series. There's a point in the series where they have to do that at one point, and we'll get there though.
But I like when the visitors are running through the rebellion headquarters. There, if you look in the background, you can see a bunch of barrels labeled fresh water.
I did see that. Yep, I was saying that as well. But I love this little sequence because we get the introduction to Ham and Chris as characters, like their verbal, like who they are talking wise. Then you also get to see them in action. Like Ham and Chris, basically like, all right, get your people out of here. We'll hold the bad guys off for you. The two of them could hold off the entire
visitors get in. It's just Chris and Ham.
And basically, it's just Ham because Chris is busy setting up like explosives and stuff, and Ham's just taking care of all the business. But again, that Chris and Ham banter. Ham sits down. He's like, he just sits down. He's like obviously tired. Chris just looks at me and goes, having fun. They love it. This is their
they're in their zone.
Exactly.
It's a weird zone, but it's their zone.
It is, and it's a very 80s action zone. It's like, if anything, this is the most 80s action movie I think we can get from Ham mostly.
I mean, they're the A-team.
They really are. That's pretty much what it is. Ham is pretty much like Hannibal with a little more attitude. It is a great.
I mean, Chris isn't Howling Mad Murdoch, but isn't he?
Isn't he though? I guess at least Donovan to be kind of like almost like face at that point eventually. He's kind of a really good looking guy, so he works. It works. He's got to get a BA. I don't know who would be a BA on this team. Let's get back to you on that. But they do have so they get out. Ham explodes. The visitors are mostly killed. Brian kills poor Pascal, and the scene ends basically. Resistance has gotten away. Ham helps save the day. But I love it as an opening sequence. To get an action piece, we get two new characters who I fell in love with right away. It sets the tone for what we're going to get moving forward, at least in this episode, if not for the rest of the final battle. But then we shift and we go back to Eleanor. And this is one of those good character moments for me. Eleanor talks to Stephen about Sean, and it's clear that Eleanor is barely even hiding. Like, it feels like the first couple episodes, Eleanor didn't like act like she knew what was going on. She just was being nice. This time she had some conversations with Stephen to feel like, I know you're not exactly a good person, but I know that you have Sean and it's not for good reasons, but you'll help me get him back, won't you? There's a little like, I help you, you help me kind of give and take between them. Which
definitely.
Right?
Yeah. I think she knows that what Mike has been saying is the truth.
Right.
But that she's in a position of power, and so she doesn't care because she's selfish.
It's a through line in her character that I wonder how long it goes. I think in the beginning she convinced herself, but at some point, and perhaps it was during the conversation with Mike, when Mike was stealing the pass, and she finally said, "Yep, this is the case. I know what's going on, but I'm already too far deep, and I'm already I'm in power, so I can't leave now." But what we get out of it, after Stephen promises to help her, we get Arthur, drunken Arthur, who steps up and like just finally calls her out. Like you wanted to see it this entire time because she's been walking all over him since obviously long before this show started. Like this is like obviously the way that the dynamic has been set up. She's the one in control. He's the kind of like pushover. I'm gonna drink my way through life, and whatever happens, happens. Stupid, greedy woman, and like you can tell, she's like, "What the hell is going on? Like, who is this?" And he starts walking out the door, and he has one of the greatest comeback lines when she's like, once you step out that door, there's no coming back. He pauses for a second. Thank God. And he walks out. Fist pump moment for me. I'm like, yeah, you go, Arthur. You go.
I love that he said, this time you've gone too far, even for a stomach as strong as mine.
Right. I was like, is your stomach strong, Arthur? We don't know, but that's pretty
well, with all that alcohol.
That's true. Maybe he built it up.
Definitely got to be pretty strong. The liver's strong.
That's true. That is true. I believe now, I could be wrong. It's been a little while since I've watched. I think that's actually the last time we see Arthur the rest of the entire show.
Yeah.
Not this episode, next episode. I will say, I'm giving all my secrets away for when I read the novelization. There is a sequence that Anne Crispin added where Arthur does come back briefly at the very end, kind of like how Stanley Bernstein comes back briefly. Arthur comes back with Sean and brings him to watch the balloons rise as we get to that sequence at the end of the next chapter. I would like to have seen him come back. I kind of would like to have seen this character because you have a problem with Eleanor and Mike, because Eleanor and Mike, I don't believe, get another scene together again, if I'm not mistaken. And I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen his reaction to Eleanor's fate.
I would love to have seen Arthur make his way to the Resistance and like have Arthur and Mike have a conversation, because obviously we don't know when she married Arthur. We don't know if was Mike raised partially by Arthur? We don't really know for sure. Obviously, Mike pretended to be him to talk to Christine. He knows who he is, obviously. It feels like they have a decent enough relationship, but we get to hear much about it. Fortunately, there's not much room for that in the Western sci-fi action-packed Via the Final Battle. No time for characterization.
No time for character study.
Okay. The next scene we get to is when Harmony and Willie have their...
Well, hang on. I want to...
Go ahead.
The rebellion moves.
Oh, yes.
New place. We're at an old abandoned movie ranch, and my little LA mind did the Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time. We're like, is that supposed to be Spawn movie ranch?
Oh.
It's not.
Okay.
This, I did look it up. I think this is in Sierra Madre. The Spawn movie ranch is a little bit further away in Santa Susana. But I really was looking at it like, wait a minute.
That would have been very cool if it was.
Yeah, I didn't think it was still around. I'm not sure.
I wonder.
But I wasn't sure if it was back then, if it was something that was still used or not. But I really just had that moment of, wait a minute. It was like a really odd choice. But it's also coming back to okay, they're definitely aware this is a Western.
That's a good point.
To the last one where Julie had the standoff with the ship, I'm like, oh, this is obviously a Western. How have I missed it?
That's a good point. It's actually a very, very good point. They have a horseback riding scene. I mean, come on, that's a horseback riding fight. Very much a Western at that point.
They're trying so hard to make it a modern Western. I just don't watch Westerns. I never noticed.
Well, movie ranch wise, spoiler alert, there's actually another base in the Rebellion future, just in the future, that is actually a movie ranch again, that I think is a different movie ranch. So maybe that one might be. I'll have to look into that possibly when we get to there. But yes, they are on the movie ranch that I guess they know about. I guess Ham knew about this one, he said, supposedly. But then we get to see Willie, who is in chains, and Harmony comes to meet him, and they have a kind of a touching conversation. And I gotta say, Harmony is good people. It's surprising how quickly she came around in a way. Kind of didn't expect that in a way, but she's very nice and very sweet. Even Willie can't quite believe it. Why are you being so nice to me?
Yes, and I love that she replies, "Well, I didn't fall for you for your looks."
I guess
So
I'm not an
cute.
ox.
Fox.
Ox, you
They're so
dope.
cute. They're so
They are a very cute couple. You want to see them get together, despite the special differences.
I mean, what's some different DNA?
Eh, I don't know. Will he be a Warren? Willie's not exactly a Warren body to cuddle up to during the night, though. But he might be good to cuddle up to during like, this hot summer nights. Maybe that's the
I
reverse
have
of it.
so many questions later on about Willie, and I can't wait to hear your opinions on them.
Okay, all right, let's do it. We'll get there. I still love the fact I'll bring it up every episode that Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger and Willie in like the same year, the same time, and like they're such totally different characters. But it shows a
I'm
good breadth.
completely blank. I'll have to look it up later. But I was a little while ago. I was watching a horror movie, and Robert Englund literally just crosses the street, and that's all he's in the movie. And I was like, wait a minute.
Really,
I have a
really.
lot of those Leonardo DiCaprio moments. Like, wait a minute. I
Hey,
know that background actor.
I love it when he shows up in these movies like I didn't know he was going to be in. Like he was in, what was that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Uh, I watched the Arnold Schwarzenegger filmography at one point, last couple of years or
That's a
so.
lot.
That was quite a bit. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I figure out what movie he was in, but it was like one of his 1970s movies, like late 1970s movies, and he played like he was at a gym. He's like the owner of a gym, or like he worked at this gym. God, what was it? I can't remember. It was
Yeah, I think Conan's probably the oldest movie I've seen him in.
Stay Hungry. That's what it is. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a bodybuilder. Shocker.
Oh, so it was a stretch. Really working the acting jobs.
Exactly.
Was he Austrian?
He was actually, yes, he was Austrian bodybuilder Joe Santo, who was training in his gym for a Mr. Universe competition. So he was really stretching himself.
Showing Hollywood what he could do.
Exactly. It was Jeff Bridges, Sally Field, and Robert Englund was one of the gym people there. So it was
That's crazy.
it's actually it was a pretty fun movie. I'm not gonna lie. Stay Hungry by Bob Rafelson, who directed it, 1976. If you're interested, it's fun. But either way, going back, it's always interesting to see Robert Englund in his element as Freddy Krueger and then his element as Willie, because there's such diverse, different characters. But that makes it so much fun to me.
Yeah, definitely. Also, like I was surprised that I don't want to sound rude, but like how old he was. I was thinking he was in like his early 20s because he looks quite young.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because he's, I don't know, has that kind of boyish appearance, which if you grow up watching Miss Freddy, you don't really realize.
Right, because you don't see him. You see the burned face until I think you don't see really Robert Englund until Freddy's dead, I believe. You get
Well, Freddy 2, Freddy's Revenge, he's the bus driver.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. It is him first there too, isn't it? That's correct. Okay, fair. But yeah,
Not
but
that I
it's
know
really,
my nightmare movies or
you
anything.
do. I forgot that sequence. I do know a lot of my nightmare movies, but I'll bow to your wisdom on that one. But he does definitely. I think his character is a very boyish character. The innocence character helps him look even younger for Willie, I believe.
Yes,
I'll give you
definitely.
that. All right, we get to the next sequence, which is a little more macho posturing between Donovan and Ham. Over Donovan basically talking about plans to get Julie back, and Ham is pretty much trying to ixnay it from the beginning. And it's a great standoff because Ham's got the right. You understand why Ham's saying that. I mean, this is like not.
I think he's totally 100% in the right.
Once the visitors get you, you're done. I mean, the conversion chamber, everything else.
But also, it's what Julie said before too. Though we can't risk everything for one person.
No matter who it is, and that's the fun thing about that because we know who's in charge now is not Julie, it's Donovan. And Donovan obviously never has agreed with that aspect of things.
And everyone is such a follower. Like the reason that is just made up of like Julie's in charge. Okay, we'll just do what she wants. All right, Mike's in charge now. It's kind of the opposite of what Julie wanted. Okay, we'll do what he wants.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll do that.
Guys, you just all right.
No real opinions of their own. Oh, that's true. But I do love the fact that Donovan does use that against Ham too. Like it's a great like finale line. He's like, I'm going to, with or without your help, we're getting her. And Ham's like, you're not giving any more orders around here. And Donna just stands there and looks at this real macho pose. No, every man, woman, and child in this unit will back me. And it's like this great little, like, almost music behind it kind of thing where Ham's like, fine, fuck it. And he's right. And it's going to be right. That's the way it's going to be. But this now leads to probably the most interesting sequence, or the first of the most interesting sequences we have in the show. What we've been kind of looking for 4 episodes of V. So the first 3 episodes, we never got to see this full on. We finally get a look at the actual conversion process.
Yes. So the first, it's I think I mentioned in the previous conversation, the nude leotard.
Yes.
That was a choice, an unfortunate one.
It worked on its target audience of young boys in the 1980s. I'll tell you that much.
As someone who has done some performances, I've worn certain things that are like that, and I could tell you they're not comfortable. And you just, oh man, when I tell you, I could see the underwear lines, and it was bothering me. I felt bad for her. They should have gave her thicker material. It's fine. Yeah. But it was some the effects. Things.
It was definitely very Star Trek. And I mean Star Trek of the 60s TV show, Star Trek.
Yeah, I think not this time. We see the conversion process a few different times with Diane leading Julie through this
right.
Early childhood trauma, trying to kind of realign her brain and thinking, I suppose. But I believe I wrote, what in the Ray Harryhausen am I watching?
That's actually very perfect. I don't know what we're watching half the time. I'm kind of like, it's like they went, okay, what do we do with this? How does this work? I don't know. Just show her some nightmares, show her some big lizards. Like I do my
heavy breathing,
nightmares fuel, right? And like my head, I'm kind of like, okay, so you're trying to convert her to your side. She knows you're lizards, so you're going to scare her with giant lizards because that's going to make her.
What was the dragon? I don't know.
The snake and I love the ripping the door off. The ripping the door has like the visitor skin underneath. Like, what was he? I don't even know what that is.
It was questionable. It was all questionable. And then like I don't know, those like, those red lights pins that people have that like they make their cats chase the wall with.
Yes.
It looked like they had an aggressive one of those on her face.
Each time they go up in the intensity level, something new happens. At one point, you have like the electric globe thing going around her face. Yeah. It's like this is well. So what is that doing, Diana? What are you talking me through this?
I don't know. I mean, I think that would. Yeah, all right. I feel like that would comfort me. I'm like, oh, pretty.
Oh, nice. That's nice. Yeah, like the lights change a little bit. It's like, oh, so this is a sequence that lights are the thing. Like it would work better if they were trying to like hypnotize her with lights or something, but that like just wasn't the case. It was like these random images and random things. And then, of course, the funniest parts of me, I guess it shouldn't have been funny, but it was in a way. She has cardiac arrest, and Diane's kind of like, whatever. Like she's going to die, and they go to commercial. And like the next time we see her, she's back up and being converted again. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, they really went into those. She has a congenital heart defect,
right,
and didn't really do anything with it. I feel like maybe they should just wrote that part out.
Yeah, I think so too. The cardiac arrest thing was like, I guess it was just there to like give them the pause in the scene to make Diana stop. Like, we have to stop her here and go back for more. So like we have to stop. Why would she stop? Well, it's because she's going to have a heart attack or something. Okay, sure. But I mean, it's good in a cheesy way. I gotta say, I do like it. I do think I do have a good time watching it, even though I'm confused. It's like strange as all heck, but like at the same time, it's kind of like it did remind me of my days watching Star Trek in a way. It's kind of like, okay, it's not the same. It feels like there should have been a higher budget for this part more than anything else, but we didn't get it.
Yeah, I kind of wish that they maybe just grounded it a little bit more in reality. I mean, this was, the 80s. We certainly knew at this point of ways in which different military groups were trying to like do experiments in similar type of ways. So why not just like pull from history?
That'd be a good thing to do. I think, honestly speaking, they must have looked at it and said, "No, we have to do something. This is a advanced technology people, so they have to do it completely differently. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense." It's kind of interesting that the other conversion process we see later on are much more in the lines of what you're talking about, a much more grounded kind of thing. Still images and stuff, but it's still kind of more less about this effect and more about like just kind of more the internal side, which makes sense in a way. You kind of don't have to worry about the lights and bells and whistles. You just kind of get more of a traumatic inside or internal thing, which is okay. I think that's the way he probably should have gotten to overall. But we wouldn't have gotten Julie in a leotard, and we wouldn't have gotten fun Diana being over the top. And I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, honestly.
Diana really was going through it at this episode, and she's gonna go through it more next episode.
Oh yeah.
We also have the introduction of my Conan, one of my Conan favorites.
Mm-hmm. Conan and Superman 2, Pamela, yes, Sarah Douglas. If it wasn't apparent that this was going more soap opera, then this what really turns it into soap opera. This basically became almost Dallas with Diana and Sarah Douglas having this kind of like war of attrition of who's really in charge here. A lot of definitely back and forth between them, but they're both up to the task, so it's fascinating to watch.
Yes, definitely. There was I'm gonna call it there was a measuring contest, if you will.
Yes, yes, indeed. They might not have it, but they had it bigger than the rest of the guys on the ship. I'll tell you that
For
much.
sure. Stephen who?
Um, but honestly, we missed a little bit of something between that before we arrive. We do get the interesting meeting between Ham and Martin.
Poor Martin.
Martin, indeed. I love Ham and Martin's like not camaraderie is not the right word, but the relationship, the way they play off each other very well. I love the fact that Ham's like rushing it. He's like, where is he? Where is he? Sits down, and it's just the way his body moves. Like he slinks away. He like senses Martin behind him, and like his body goes. It's like a swamp gator slinks up behind you.
I think that's just Michael Ironside.
It could be. It could be. But it's obviously again Donovan pushing Martin to do what he needs him to do. Martin just is really a slave in this pretty much. He's like, it's like whatever Donovan needs, he's going to have to do. And Ham makes sure that's the case because Ham's very much like, well, you do that or else we're going to kill you, pretty much.
I don't like him.
Poor Martin.
Poor Martin. He is getting forced to risk everything to save Julie.
God damn it. Julie wouldn't have wanted that, damn it.
Exactly. But at the end, even when they get her back, like she's still she you think she would have mentioned something like, next time something like this happens, guys, let's have a plan.
Yeah.
Plan it in advance.
So we go back, we get Pamela. Pamela's there. It's obviously interesting to see the dichotomy of the two motherships there. Moving forward from that, we get to see Robin waking up in pain.
Yeah.
Back to Robin, and that is our you sigh is pretty much how I think everyone feels at this point. I mean, I feel bad. I don't want to speak poorly of Ms. Tefkin, the actress, but she is definitely my least favorite part of pretty much the entire saga. Yeah.
Well, I think I've only ever seen her in one other thing, so I really can't speak to her acting per se. But I can say this character for sure.
Yes, that's
well, just a long, sad woof.
Yeah, that's we will not talk about Ms. Tefkin. We'll just talk about the character because we don't know. No idea, but she is just annoying as all get out. Again, I've said it before. I wish we could have seen Ms. Dunn, Dominique Dunn, who was murdered before filming began of the original miniseries. We're interested to see someone else in that role and see if it would have been different, because I do know that Robin Blair Tefkin made the choice to make Robin more Valley Girl. And that's part of, or at least in the direction of Valley Girl. And we got a lot of Valley Girl out of Robin, and it just gets a little more and more annoying. Even with a scene like this, which is supposed to be
heavy,
very heavy,
dark.
very dark. And Michael Durrell plays it pretty well. Robert plays it pretty well on that side.
He's the best character, and I feel like he's been really sidelined because of Robin.
Yes, that's exactly true. He's kind of stuck in that. Unfortunately, yeah, Robert, I agree. If you're a big Robert fan, he does get more and more sidelined throughout. Although he does have a couple of good action sequences left, but his character-wise, his like whole scientific shtick is pretty much done. They don't really do anything with that except for with regards to Robin and the baby, pretty
Which
much.
is lame. Also, as far as this dark scene goes, I just want to say Robert didn't deserve this stress, man. He just wanted to be a scientist. He just wanted to dig up some old stuff about cultures and maybe
Yeah,
write a book.
that's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to be excited about seeing how people developed, how aliens developed. He loved that aspect of it. Here he is. He's lost his wife, and his oldest kid is Robin. Uh,
This guy is Laura Dern from Jurassic Park. He just wants to dig through the dino droppings, and everything is getting in his way.
Robert Maxwell, we salute you. We wish you well, and unfortunately, it's not your time, unfortunately. But oh well. So Robin has this heavy scene again, goes to kill herself, but the baby won't let her, which is interesting to see because actually it's some of that lore we don't really get very much of. They kind of drop these little tidbits. So the baby won't let her kill herself. So there's some kind of really strong control from a baby. And that leads into some more things we figure out from her later on. But I kind of felt like that was the first real like not real, I guess the first science fiction-y, like it was such a science fiction-y trope at that point. Beyond our more science, I guess I should say more science fantasy in a way. Because this was like heavy science fiction, but this is kind of getting to that weird angle about like powers are starting to come into play potentially. Because this is a baby. I don't know, baby lizards
I guess
have
I
that kind of
misunderstood
control.
the scene.
Oh, did you? Okay.
So I was taking it to be like she says, it won't let me kill it. It won't let me die. It's turning me into one of them. So I was thinking that she's just hysterical, which I hate
Mm,
using that word, but she's just hysterical. And she was thinking back to previously they had tried to induce a miscarriage,
mm.
and that didn't work. So I was thinking that was more along the lines of when she said, it won't let me kill it. And at this point, I mean, she's 17. She's
Yeah,
just not able to go through with taking her own life, even like regardless of the situation. So
interesting.
I didn't think she meant, I didn't think she was speaking literally.
Oh, interesting. So I actually took it a little bit more literally because it seems like, and it might have been Blair's performance, the way she kind of like had it. I know it was her hesitating, but it almost felt like she like tried to, but then like couldn't actually do it. Like she couldn't actually do it because of the baby. It might have
But
been a
also,
combination of
her
both.
father came in really soon
That's true.
before,
That's
so
true.
there's also that.
I do wonder what the intention was then, though. I don't know. The intention isn't clear. Maybe it's just left up for the audience to decide, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I wonder if I would feel differently if I didn't know what was to come later on as far as like the development of certain powers, so to speak. As we, I mean, I'm
Oh,
spoiling if
that's
you haven't watched
Star
it.
Baby.
The star, yes, the Star Child. Anything more hippie than that? I want to see a big Aquarius song from her or something like that. But you know, that's it's musical number. That'd be perfect. But either way, okay. So we go back to Julie being converted again, getting more light show, more. It's getting more and more intense now. Eventually, Julie is broken by Diana until we get this moment where all of a sudden the mothership door opens and there's Donovan. And we're all kind of like, I know as an audience member, the first time I watched, I'm like, wait, what the fuck happened? What, even as a
I'm
kid,
like, did I skip some things?
what happened?
Is it a
Donovan's on
dream
the board.
sequence?
Donovan is able to sneak on the mothership, grab a laser rifle, sneak through everything, and she's going to break. And what the hell is going on? And of course, the visitor shoots him. And here's another one of those. It was a magic laser because he gets shot in the back, but like he falls on the ground, and like it's on his chest where he gets shot.
Maybe it's just Donovan. Maybe he's immune.
Could be. It could very well be. But it does do the job of kind of like snapping Julie out of the conversion just enough where like she wasn't quite completely converted. Um, did you, when you first watched this, did you actually probably didn't buy it because it's like Donovan dies that way? That seems like
Yeah, that
weird.
That didn't make sense.
But I guess I think the first time I saw it, I go, well, Donovan got shot in the second one. And he was just knocked out. Maybe that's all it was. But then the guy says, he's dead. So
Oh, I immediately thought it was a visitor.
yeah, okay, you did think that right away.
Yeah.
I think I got to that point quickly enough afterwards. But given that he had survived the shot before, my initial thought was maybe he is caught now. Now they're both caught. Now Ham's in charge of the resistance. Oh my God. Would have been interesting to see.
I mean, if Ham had been in charge, I'm just gonna say it. If Ham had been in charge, I think we could have had a resolve a little sooner.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong at all. But I would like to see that to test your follower theory. Uh, would they have just followed Ham at that point, or who else would have taken? Who else would have tried to take? They weren't going to follow Mark.
I
I
feel
don't
like if
think.
you get Elias on your side, you get them all.
You know what? That's not a bad point. I think that's actually absolutely true. Because I don't like Robert. I don't think had enough. He was also kind of like maybe fighting down that I betrayed you before kind of thing. So I don't know if you could trust me. Caleb, the old man kind of thing. That's along Elias. Maybe. I think Mark would try and be put down pretty quickly. I feel like.
Oh, so fast, as he should be.
Absolutely.
Freaking
He's
Mark.
nothing.
I have more feelings about Mark later on.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely get there with Mark. Yeah. So okay, we get up to Diana and Pamela having more back and forth.
Oh yeah, I love it when Pamela comes at Diana, who's trying to like put her foot down. She keeps trying to put her foot down and be this authoritarian leader, and then Pamela says, "Your ship is but one in my squadron." I'm like, "Girl,
Ooh.
who are you telling what to do? Sit down." It's adorable.
And then even further when Diana tries to pull the leader's my lover card, and she has this whole like, you might want to think that's your leader, your lover. She thinks really your lover has sent you 1 trillion miles from home. Not quite the case that he can bear to see without you. Bad not to see you, doesn't it? And she's like, fuck.
Yes, her statement of sex for favors is as old as ambition.
Ooh.
I
That trap scene, that traffic's seen a lot of traffic lately, or that whatever trail has seen a lot of traffic lately. And whew, Pamela's a stone cold bitch, and I love it. I love it.
But I feel like Steven is just so ill-equipped because he's on par with Diana,
Right.
but they're just they just have different like jobs.
Right.
But one is not above the other in terms of rank. And then John, what does John do?
I don't know.
Who
He looks
knows?
pretty for the camera. I think that's all he's supposed to do at this point. He doesn't have any other
And
control.
like, what's going on with all the other ships? Because I feel like we really only see the LA ship. I'm like, what's going on with the I don't know Hong Kong ship? What's going on with the Paris ship? What's
Right.
going on with the Beijing ship? What's going on with the New York City ship?
Right.
Is that where John is still?
Right. I think that's where John hangs out. I think, but even so, I don't think that's actually true because some of the novelizations actually that's the track they got to tell instead of trying to tell some of the LA stuff. They went, you're going to set this one in Chicago. We're going to set this one in New York. We're going to set this one in Tokyo. You get to see around the world more.
Oh, that's great.
Which is a smart decision by them to make because therefore they don't have to be beholden to whatever's going on in the series. You can just kind of have totally different storyline going, which is nice. But yeah, John, I don't know because New York has their own. If I remember, I can't remember the character's name now. I'd have to reread the book. In East Coast Crisis, there's a Diana type character out there that's definitely leads that ship. John is like in control of the fleet that's around the planet, but John seems to be over Pamela. But Pamela,
I was actually going to ask that. Like, where's John?
If you look at he's because Pamela's got the 3 stripes. John has the 1 like 6 stripe or whatever. I don't like Diana's only got 3 stripes at some point too, I think, or something. I don't really know. I kind of feel like Diana's in control of the LA ship. Steven is like her equal. Because Steven's like the military leader while Diana's like the scientific leader. So the two of them together kind of head up the mothership. I think her mothership is supposedly in Pamela's squadron. And I'm wondering if Pamela's squadron is one of under John's admiralship or something to that effect. I think John is supposed to be the one that's in charge. But I don't know for sure.
I'm just gonna throw it out there. Clearly, Pamela's the best leader of them all.
Absolutely.
I also like the it kind of goes it kind of goes back to, history. Empires crumble from within. None of these
Mhm.
people are good leaders.
No, no, not all, because they all like to play everybody each other against each other, so to speak. Um, and that's true. I think Pamela definitely sees Diana as a threat. I think not like a big threat, but like she wants to like definitely stake her claim over Diana, and she definitely sees that Stephen is possibly an asset to be her to want to work against Diana. So she's quick to kind of maneuver onto Stephen's side and get Stephen to basically be her lackey, so to speak.
I
I'm
can
looking at it
actually
now. Diana actually has 3 stripes, just like Pamela does. That's what's so strange. Stephen has 2 stripes, and Martin has 2 stripes. So I guess Stephen's under Diana, theoretically.
Or
I don't
it
know.
could just be because I mean, like, people can be in different, like, talking about our
Branches.
military,
Yeah.
you can be in different levels and have, different badges and pins and stuff like that, just
Yeah.
depending on how long you've been in the service, what your rank is, what your job is. You may just be more declarated than someone who is a higher ranking official than you.
Yeah. I see that. I think if you kind of combine that though with this conversation, I'm looking at what Pamela had with Steven, it does seem like she said because Pamela says something about we don't want Diana to stumble, we have to support her. And I feel like Steven is the one like that she's going to use to overtake her, and Steven would kind of become the new Diana. I kind of feel like that's the route they're trying to imply.
But I
I don't
also
know.
okay, and this is just me just
Yeah.
being an overthinker, but I never really fully understood any of their motivations. It's just being power hungry to me is not a motivation. You need a reason to want power, which
Mhm.
none of these characters have whatsoever. It's
No.
just I want to outrank you, but to what end? What purpose? What does your rank give you? It for human characters, we kind of know, well, you get more money so you can get more stuff.
Stuff, right,
That's
right,
easy. But with these people, you're on a ship, like, you can't get anything. Y
right,
Like, do you get a retirement fund? Do you get better food?
right.
Are you getting like, what to what end does getting more power get you?
Right.
What is the achievement for that? Like,
I think Steven's motivation comes from the fact, and this is where another reason why I think Diana's over Steven. I think Steven doesn't like working under Diana. I think Steven wants to get rid of
that
her.
makes sense. Like, I wouldn't like working with her either. She's a
Mm.
nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, she's psychotic to a degree. You never know which direction she's going to go. I think Diana, what I got from Diana's motivation is like something I claimed back in the first episode. I feel like she's a scientist. She's definitely the science side. And I kind of feel like she wants to prove herself to be able to be in charge of a military operation. I think she wants to play with the big boys. I think it's kind of her motivation is to like, I can do this. I'm in charge. I'm going to win the day. Kind of vainglorious. She wants fortune and glory to prove the leader right that you're right for sending me on this mission, kind of thing. Whereas Pamela, I don't think Pamela has much more of a motivation except for to put Diana down. I think she sees her as a rival. Maybe she sees how Diana's kind of climbed the ranks, and she sees her as a threat to her standing because of. I mean, she puts down Diana's relationship with the leader, but perhaps she sees her as a threat to her standing, potentially. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to speculate on what the motivations could be. They aren't very clear. I will tell you. I will agree with you there. They're definitely not clear. Um, but either way, it ends up becoming, like we said, definitely much more of a soap opera at this point between them.
Yeah, it's kind of basically power hungry fascist aliens gotta be power hungry
Not
fascist.
just aliens. That's right. Well, after that, we after this little conversation, we learn that Martin comes in, and we get the showcase that it was indeed that Donovan was the Donovan who killed or who tried to break Julie out was a visitor and fifth columnist, which does give Martin his opportunity to sneak in his whole plan there and almost make it feel like it's their plan. But I'm actually not sure about this plan. Like Martin comes back as the alien, there's a fifth columnist, and like Steven, like, yeah, they're on every ship. There are reports all over, and Diana's going crazy about it. And Martin's like, well, we should transfer all of our important prisoners down to Earth security, because there's so many fifth columnists on board the mothership. But like, I don't know about maybe I missed something, but in my head, logically, I'm like, isn't the mothership by far more secure than any Earth-bound security
Well,
building
yeah, and if there's fifth colonists on the ship, aren't there also fifth colonists on
on Earth.
Earth,
You would think so, right?
but they're just so upset. They're just like, yeah, let's do that. All right.
They're obviously on board here right now, so let's get rid of her. I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, that seemed like a story, it's a plot, plot argument at this point. But
I feel
okay,
like everyone's willing to do something to just oust Diana.
yeah, that's absolutely true. I actually do wonder that, perhaps a better written script. Do we find out that like Diana is like so upset that she just kind of agrees, but Stephen and Pamela almost see this as a way to discredit her. If it's her ship, they lost control. If they lose Julie, then they get to discredit her further, potentially. But then
So I don't
again,
think it would go so far as to jeopardize the mission to do this.
right. That's
Um,
what I don't know.
I think it really just comes from at this point they kind of don't know what to do, and
Right.
Martin's suggestion maybe just seems like the best idea.
That's fair. I remember just thinking when
Although
I watched it, I always
what
kind
you're
of thought it
saying,
was
like
weird.
yeah, with what you're saying, like a better written show maybe would have had an explanation as to why, like Martin suggests it within his suggestion had a little explanation as to why headquarters would be safer.
More secure, right? Absolutely. I mean, quite frankly, because not only does the mothership seem like more secure, considering nobody gets on the mothership except for Donovan once or twice. Like it seems like in any kind of movie or TV show or any kind of situation, if you're moving a prisoner, that's where they're always at their weakest, or that's where the that's where the escape always happens. It seems like when they're on that way.
Or if Diana had done a better job in converting Julie, it would be a great
Mm,
setup to be like, okay, yeah, let's move the prisoner. I
right.
think,
Wink,
but
wink.
she's not that smart.
Right. Not quite that way yet. Absolutely. So, okay. Interesting. After that, Stephen and Pamela have this little flirtation with each other, which I don't know is if it's something more than just working together. I can't
Oh, I
tell.
didn't read it that way at all.
Okay, really? Okay, so I kind of
I
felt
just
like,
thought it was plotting,
okay, all right. I
just
kind of saw a
plotting
little
against
twinkling in the
Diana.
eye.
I kind of read it as like, oh wait, is she on my side? Does she not want to work with her either? Okay, I
I
can
s-
get into this.
I saw it a little bit of both. Like I could see it. Like I could
I
see
mean,
not
really,
seeing it, but
Stephen always seems like he's flirting. Let's
that's
be
true.
real. This alien is thirsty.
He is definitely a thirsty individual. He'll get it from anywhere, it seems. But okay, fair, fair. Okay. Speaking of being thirsty, though, we get to the next scene where Maggie is pumping Daniel for info, literally, pretty much at that point, uh, in bed, looking disgusted as all get out, which obviously, because Daniel is a disgusting dirtbag. Um, Played well by the actress. I can't remember her name now. Maggie is played by. It's not in here. She's actually not actually listed in the characters. There she is. Yes, Denise Gallic. It's a great job here. Like we said before, like we saw last episode where she seduced our friend here, Daniel, and she does a good job here doing getting more information out of her. And Daniel is so easy to fool. Daniel is such an easy target. Like not only is he an asshole, but he's bad at his job kind of thing. He just lets this information out.
It's not even that he's trusting. It's not even necessarily that he's bragging. It's just that he's too stupid to know that he shouldn't even be saying this.
Right. It's like you're leading the leader of the resistance. You're in charge of things. That means you want to be smart about this, I would think. But everything about this episode, actually about the final battle in general, is more and more showcasing how awful Daniel is. And it's like you double down each time. Whereas like the first couple of times he's an asshole, you're kind of like, well, he's a young kid. He's got no friends. He's got no hopes and everything else. You can see why he's being fooled into and like then every scene like it just doubles down and gets worse and worse and worse. And like it gets to the point by the end of the next episode where you're kind of like, God, all right, no more. I don't need any more scenes where we know he's an asshole. We don't need any more scenes where you show this is Daniel being an asshole.
I mean, at this point, it's just if you have a scene with Daniel, it's a scene showing him being an asshole.
Well, that's his whole motivation, at least as far as storyline goes, is we're going to show how much of an asshole this guy is.
In just every way possible. But also, because the next scene, we need to show Mark's awful too.
Yeah, no, he absolutely
Maggie just
is.
has terrible taste.
She does. That's a good point. Elias does try to like talk some sense into him a little bit in a nice way. Um, Mark is obviously very jealous, and he just can't handle the situation at this point. And I guess it's understandable that he's jealous, but it just you have to be able to deal with it, dude.
But it's also like, I don't know, man. Get a grip on reality. Like
Yeah, right,
doing or pretend to save the world.
right, exactly. That's where it comes from. A point, like I understand, like you understand him not liking it, but like it's this point of like, well, how do you react to that though? There's
And
much better ways you can
I
react to
just
that.
wanted to point out, I wrote my notes.
What?
Brad would never have been this selfish.
Justice for
Mark
Brad. Mark is the lesser Brad. I think we both can agree with that.
definitely discount Brad.
Discount Brad, yeah. Dollar store Brad. That's what he is. But we do get the Elias has definitely matured from his original appearances. Now he's kind of the one that's actually he seems to be very much in tune with what should be said and how to say things. He actually does a good
He's
job
kind
with
of the go-to advice guy.
yeah. He because he's very intense. Like when when he is explaining something or talking to you, he's very much he's there. He's very present for that statement. He's very argumentative, like in a good way, to make you see what you're doing is wrong, dude. She's okay. She doesn't like it any more than you do.
I think Elias has always been very wise. He's just, maybe used his wisdom to go about doing things in a bit of a different way.
Right. He's never had. Well, I feel like he's never had. I don't want to say because I don't want to blame Caleb and Ben because I don't think they. I was going to say like he's never had a family situation that he felt comfortable in. So I don't think it was Caleb and Ben's fault, but he never felt comfortable in that situation. So he was always using his skills with the gang members and with the underworld
I
of
think
Los
it's more
Angeles.
his skills are more suited to that environment,
Right. Absolutely.
and maybe even working in an environment that wasn't that way, he just never got very far, which is
Right.
unfortunate because clearly he is a very intelligent, emotionally intelligent person.
Yes. And in this kind of situation where they're all kind of criminals, technically speaking, at this point, he's able to really stand forth and go, this is what I do. I can help you out here. And it's smart. Unfortunately, again, it's not written completely well because you have this sequence here, this scene here, and it almost feels like Elias has made some ground. Then it kind of just all falls apart the very next
Yeah, the
next scene.
very next scene, Chris is going through this building handing out bullets, which can pierce through the visitor's armor.
Right.
And then he meets Mark and Maggie at the back of the building fighting. And Mark, honestly, is getting kind of aggressive.
Yeah.
Like he's clearly I feel like there's a line in the sand. He crossed it. Like
Yeah.
he definitely went too far. And Chris put him in his place, and I loved him for it.
So quickly and so intensely, and oh yeah, because he sees it because Mark grabs her, definitely starts getting physical with her a little bit, and Chris just stands right up and gets right in between them. I love it. Actually, I have the scene on. I always watch the movie in the background. I have the movie playing in the background while we're discussing it. And I'm right at that moment now. And he has that great one where he just kind of steps in and has this little thing. He's like, "You think I can't? You have any doubt in your mind that I can't change your life completely right now, or maybe even
Or
bring it
end
to a
it.
close?" He's like, "Yeah." He's
Yes,
like, "It's so good. It's so good."
it
Um,
is, and he's completely right. Mark needs to grow up,
mhm.
and he
Interestingly
does.
enough. Interestingly enough, again, when we get to the books, there's actually an episode. There's a book later on in the series where Chris and Maggie actually form a little bit of a relationship.
Okay, so I actually wrote in my notes, Maggie, what are you doing? Elias is right there. He's clearly
Right. So
we
it's a
never
very
see Elias get a partner,
it's
and
true.
if anyone deserves love after
Hmm.
Willie and Harmony, it's clearly Elias.
Yes, indeed. All right, the next sequence we see is one of my favorite in this episode. It's the it's almost like it had to happen at some point, but the way they do it is just really well done and well written. I want to point out when it's badly written, I will, but when it's well written, I do want to point that out too. In this scene where we see that Ham Tyler is a bit of a human after all is very well written. Just enough. Just enough. Just enough. Gives you just a hint. In fact, there's a danger that poorly written, it could have been well overdone. But it was done very subtle. It's partially because of Ruby, who is just a wonderful performer. I do love Ruby in the whole show. Ruby's been top notch. She's had some great moments with Julie, great moments with Abraham in the first part, and here you have this moment about her talking about her acting job because she has to be the one to bullshit her way through the legation, the visitor security headquarters in her makeup. And she talks about having done Romeo and Juliet, and Ham shocks her by saying, well, I saw Damie to do that once. And the moment is great because she stops everything she's doing just for him to be like, wait, what? Like her mind is blown. You. And it has this line I did. He goes, and she just turns to him and just like, you're not as primitive as I thought you were. And they have this moment, they share it. And she has this other moment where you want more, she wants more, and you as the audience want more, where they wisely don't give it to you.
What happened to you, Mr. Tyler? How did you become so dangerous?
Well, and of course, it's the line of death, though. It is the line of death. Well, you make it back, and I'll tell you my whole life story.
He just killed her.
Ham, you know better. Ham, you should know better. In your line of work, you should know better. And that's not the only time this happens during this episode. We'll say.
Yeah, I have another one of those. I wrote it down.
These people need to watch. These people need to watch horror movies or any kind of movie like this.
You don't know the rules?
I feel like saying that the whole time. Where's Jamie Kennedy when you need him? But it is one of those moments where I wish we had more scenes like this, but I'm glad we got this at the very least. Great scene, great little scene there. So the plan is in place. She is going to be in the visitor security headquarters. She is going to blow the lights and the power, which controls the energy gate that kind of surrounds the security headquarters. And when they bring Julie in, they're going to attack and they're going to take Julie out. And that's supposedly what's going to happen. Now, how Ruby was supposed to get out, I don't know if she was ever supposed to get out. Maybe supposed to just fake her way through it. But unfortunately, it doesn't quite happen, unfortunately. We get to the sequence in the beginning where they have it all set up. They're watching it. Of course, you have the great line from Ham, being Ham. The line is mostly you're supposed to shoot Martin in the leg to have him go down, and then everything else would start to protect Martin because he's their boy. Yeah. And of course, Ham says, at this rate, I can cut her in half. I could cut him in half. And I love the Donovan look. This gets anything more than a graze, and you're gonna get the same thing. Donovan trying to be a badass to Ham Tyler. First of all, I love Donovan, and he is a badass to a degree, but he can't out badass Ham Tyler.
No, he cannot. Yeah, they're just they're different levels.
Right, exactly.
In fact, I don't really know if I would consider Mike Donovan a badass. I think he's cool.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'll go with that. Maybe that's better. He doesn't really scare Ham though. Ham laughs it off pretty easily. But we do get the action sequence where it does go down as it needs to be. With Donovan, by the way, with a great tossing Julie like a rag doll. That's a lot of strength there. Like, oof, that's a lot of strength.
You're up and just yoink.
No, that's great. That's impressive. But we are now led to right away, almost like 5 minutes later, probably the other really intense and wonderful emotional scene of the episode. Daniel makes his way down to the basement where Ruby is because he almost recognized her earlier. He kind of recognized her but couldn't quite place who she was. Then when she disappeared to the basement, he couldn't find her. He knew something was up. So he goes looking to the basement to where the power is, because that's where the power went out, finds her again, finds Ruby, and doesn't realize who it is at first, but is going to bring her upstairs because he suspects that something went on, that she was involved. So he's looking for another Julie moment where he turns Julie into Diana. He's going to turn this traitor in as well. But when he grabs her, the disguise comes off, and there they are, Ruby and Daniel. Now, problematically with the final battle at this point, we're kind of so far away from the original that it almost feels like you have to be reminded that these two really knew each other very well. Because we haven't had any scenes with these guys at all. We had no Daniel's had no Bernstein moments. Ruby has had no talk about Abraham in the first one. So we have to kind of quickly refresh the storyline that this was his grandfather's best friend, really, especially towards the end of her life. And as we learn, he used to spend all his time, a lot of time in her house, in her neighborhood, getting cookies from her and things like that. So it comes to this moment where, as a viewer, you're watching this, and I don't know if you felt the same way, but even though I know it's happening, I kept kind of like pushing for like, let her go this time. Be the good guy. Let her go. Let her go. Let her get out. Let her get out.
You want him to so badly, and I feel like in this particular case, God, you hate Daniel so much, but you just want Ruby to leave. And she says, and this is what really kills me. It's like, Daniel, I've known you all your life. You were such a good boy. You can't have changed to be so without honor. I don't believe it. And she has smiles. She's this
Yeah.
sweet old, like, I don't think she's an actual grandmother, but she's like this sweet old granny.
Yeah.
And he shoots her
In the back.
and he smiles. Ah, he did change. He did. And
No honor.
and then we just cut to Father Andrew holding services, and it's like, I wish we had gotten reactions to that.
Right, yeah, no, to them finding out, absolutely. I mean, you wanted Daniel to have his Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi moment where he turns back to the good side. You're kind of hoping maybe he'll just let her go. If he doesn't become a good guy again, maybe he just lets her go for Abraham's sake, so to speak. But no, it's not. It's not the case. And you're right. It's sad and
And I
it's
wish
tough.
Ruby had in that moment mentioned Abraham.
That's what, yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping for as well. You feel like she should have. It's no, it's because we both loved Abraham so much, and he was such a powerful character that he should be invoked at that point. Um, but yeah, it's sad, and you're right. It goes right into Father Andrew giving services. Um, and we do get the reactions during the service, which is nice. We get to see Ham, who is probably the most serious he's been. I mean, he's pretty serious the entire time, but he's got a world of hurt in his face, like, which is impressive considering how he hasn't been there that long. But he obviously was touched by Ruby in the dialogue he's had with her. It's very sad. We do get the little humor aspect when someone tries to hold hands and someone like hits Chris. Like, you want to hold a hand? Chris just kind of looks at him. I ain't holding your hand. Kind of. It's very Chris, very Father. It's powerful. It's a powerful moment, but I wish we had gotten more from it. In a way.
Yeah, I definitely wish we'd gotten more.
Some discussion about it, something. I don't know exactly what we could have done better, but yeah,
She
it was a little
deserved
lacking.
more.
Agreed. Justice for Ruby. Justice for Ruby. It made sense. Like, I'll be honest, like, written wise, it made sense for her to be one of the ones who, because you can't have a war without some victims. Some people have to die, or else it's not really, get the consequences for war. And she made sense. She made sense to be one of the ones who died. But yeah, I think she could have been better served with a different aspect.
I mean, at the end of the day, man, you couldn't have sent in somebody who Daniel didn't know.
Yeah, Daniel. They know Daniel's there.
Him.
Daniel's there. I mean, come on now. Send in
But also,
Elias.
the way the time works in this show can be very strange. But we'd seen previously Daniel being assigned to this building, and we'd also seen that Ruby had been working in this building. He never recognized her at any time before?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I mean, he was never in charge. Maybe he didn't pay attention. That was the idea. Like, now that he's in charge and he's taking these things a lot of responsibility for himself. So he's taking it somewhat seriously, not seriously enough to keep a secret from Maggie, but enough that when he's actually in charge that night, that he's going to be intense about it. But oh well. All right, next we get to see what happens next after that. Oh, we get
Brian finds Sean in the KY jelly.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. As the visitors wipe it off, I actually thought the same thing. I'm like, this does not look right. I don't know. This is not the right thing for
It's
this.
very strange. It was a
Yeah.
choice.
It was definitely a choice. Um, and it was worse. I mean, it was definitely worse the way, because the whole thing, the visitors feel like predators anyway. So it just felt even worse that way. They had like a little kid on this table in a nude leotard like that covered. It just that was a choice we made.
Yeah, it was yeah, now it's even worse of a choice.
Right? Exactly. It's like,
You know what? At least they didn't have salt and pepper on him.
good point. That's a very, very good point. So, so Brian finds out who Sean is. I do like that line read by Brian when he says, "Oh, it's Sean Donovan." He's well, Sean Donovan, you're going to make somebody very happy indeed.
Someone's gonna be very happy to see you. I actually didn't know who he was referring to. Eleanor, Stephen, Diana.
Probably Diana is what he thought, because Stephen did say something about it being a special present for Diana. So
Special
I'm
present for
assuming.
Diana.
So I've been assuming that Brian, because we know how Brian feels about Diana, so, or at least what he wants to get out of the situation. Something to please Diana would be in his
Yeah, it's a
wheelhouse.
yeah, that all happened.
Brian needs more KY jelly for the. Maybe he'll take that with it as well. Him as well. Um,
Oh
They're trying all sorts of this new human lovemaking, so we're gonna figure out something going on. All right, the next sequence we get is Julie talking to the base. I guess Martin's talked to her, because Martin got word to her that the new water plan they have is in 30 days. South California is going to be as dry as a desert because of Pamela's new plan that she had.
yeah, that was another thing. I'm like, I don't know if you know this. Los Angeles is a desert
Yeah. Yep.
already. So
Pretty much.
I don't think the visitors really did anything there.
It's a good point.
I can count the number of times I saw it rain.
You're right. I've only been there a few times, and it definitely hasn't rained when I've been out there. So water out of Southern California doesn't exactly. It's not exactly very specific about where they're getting it from. So, but I guess we don't need to know. We know that's a bad thing happening. That's all we need to know. We get Ham announcing that he has a new throw mic in a very Ham Tyler way. I do love this little device they have. Definitely getting to hear
I
Ham.
feel like they used a whole one time.
I know, I don't understand. Why don't they use this all the time? And they never do. But get another big battle between Ham and Donovan and Julie, and we get the whole war. And it's now, you called them followers before. At least Caleb in this interaction does have a little bit of balls and says, "I hate to admit it, but he might have a point."
And he's right.
He is absolutely right. Donovan is never, but you know what? Donovan is never going to be one to do the strategically sound thing. He does the
No.
very supportive thing, because he's a very supportive individual, especially to those he loves. And he's obviously been falling for Ms. Parrish for a little bit now. Definitely been interested in Ms. Parrish. So it makes sense to be that way. Unfortunately, Donovan's not the strategic guy, but he is charismatic enough to get everybody else to join in on his side, with Julie as well. Julie basically saying that she's fine.
Yeah, the whole I led this unit for a long time. I refused to step down because Hem Tyler is paranoid. Kind of didn't sit on track with her character previously.
Mm,
And I wonder if that's just not great writing or if that's Diana's conversion therapy. Because
possible.
previous Julie to me would be, I have been compromised. Clearly, I'm aware that I've been compromised.
Mm-hmm.
And I should, in fact, take a step back just in case.
You're not wrong. Actually, I actually noted that myself, but I do feel like the next part of the conversation is very Julie, when she's, because Ham says we already lost Ruby, getting her back, and she turns around and said, she basically says, Ruby gave her life for me. I could never repay that, but if I walk away now, then she died in vain. because she did have this close relationship with Ruby in the first time. So one of the great moments in the original, we had Ruby had this conversation with Julie, which basically solidified Julie's leadership as being the one. She kind of took that confidence of, well, I'll fake it if I can't do it. I'll fake it at least. They won't be able to tell the difference, kind of thing. So the fact that Ruby did lose her life, that she does kind of feel responsibility to live up to that. I think she's a very confused person right now. I mean, we learned that she is kind of confused at a time. I think she wants to be the Julie she needs to be. She feels like she could be. It gets a little wonky at times, though. We're not going to lie.
Yeah, she keeps reiterating the same problems. We see this. It's not the exact same scene. Like they're not recycling the shot like they do for some other things, but it's more like they're recycling the script. And I'm like, well, why are we just repeating this? We've already had this discussion. We don't
Right.
need it again,
Mhm.
unless they're going to expand upon it, which they don't.
No,
We
they
get
don't.
it. You use both hands. The visitors made you more ambidextrous. Congratulations.
Right. It's a very. I wish they had done more with it. We get a couple of touchbacks here and there, especially at the very end of episode 5. But they could definitely have done more with it. There's an interesting scene we get to see in the weekly series. Weekly series has a lot of trashy moments, but there are some hidden gems of moments in that weekly series that I still like. If you love the characters, you kind of get if you stuck with it this entire time, you get a little rewarded here and there. Not very much, but you have to look. You have to dig for those diamonds, but they are there, which does involve the conversion process.
I
But
also wanted to note that they did start using a kind of for these more soap opera-esque scenes. They did start using a more kind of like I call it 70s porn music.
I was going to bring it up because we have the set in one of the next sequences after they check out the water plant. They get to do the reconnaissance mission. By the way, the voice disguises are enough that these guys are the most wanted people in the resistance probably, and they go around no problems because they can sound
Yeah,
funny.
they're very conspicuous.
Right.
They're just blatant. They take the disguises off at one point. I'm like, what?
But we do get this scene where Julie has her moments with the comb, and she walks out to an obviously had to be shirtless Mike Donovan at this point. He had to be
Contractually.
It was definitively in the contract. Mark Singer has to take off his shirt for this scene. And it is like we mentioned the score before, because the score in V the Final Battle has been much different than the score in the original. And a lot of the score had been John Carpenter-esque with the very synth-driven horror-esque aspects to it. And then you go to this, and it is exactly what you described. It's the 70s porn with the big sax solo. It's always the sax that gets played over it.
It is the sexiest instrument.
It is, but I love it. It's always very Lethal Weaponish in a way. We get the sax going, and we get Julie and Donovan finally showcasing how they feel for each other in a moment of, okay, let's just move this along now because it was pretty cheesy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and I wrote abrupt cut to Julie being Dr. Julie telling Willie he's had minor surgery and experiencing a body temperature drop. And I feel like I maybe missed the scene because when did he get surgery and for what?
Yeah, they had. Well, I think it must have just happened. Like they have obviously the sex scene is cut. We get the hard cut 'cause we're on NBC, and then right away I guess he's just post op. I guess they just had this. I don't know if they're meaning that the allergic thing, the allergy board thing they were doing earlier was part of that. I don't know.
But we've had scenes in between of
Yeah.
Willie being fine. It seemed like an editing mistake to me.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to feel like he just had surgery. Like Donovan and Julie had sex, and the next morning Julie performed surgery on Willie, and then this is after that. So we just missed the Julie performing surgery on him.
I just didn't know for what purpose, to what end, what they do to Willie. Is Willie okay? I'm very concerned. Then Robin comes in.
It ruins it all again anyway. So we don't get that information because Robin comes in. God damn it, Robin.
Yes, but here's like the thing. Willie apparently knows what to do. I know this. I can remedy this. So here's my thing. What was Willie on his planet? Because in my mind, hear me out, I think Willie was a doula.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
here's the thing, if you grab any guy who's not a father,
Right.
okay,
Right.
grab any man, just a single man, and you
Right.
put him on a random planet with a teenage girl, he's
Oh
not gonna know how to do anything. What are you
no,
talking about,
that's
movies?
right.
Like, Willie seems to know all of this information about pregnancy, and he is a terrible soldier. I'm just
Yeah,
thinking this poor guy, he's either came from a very large family, and
that
so
was
he's
my
watching
thought.
mom give birth a lot, or he's a doula, or both.
I That absolutely could be. I never really thought of it that way. I did know I was taking not taking it back's the wrong word, but I was kind of like, oh, he knows how to do this. This factory worker that knows how to do this. Hmm. Okay. And I love the fact that like I know we're supposed to be just believing, but you watch him do his thing, and she's laying her side, and all he's doing is like that's
Yes.
that's the magic touch right there, I guess.
And I was thinking, like, earlier, back to, like, when they were doing, Diane's conversion therapy thing. I'm like, honestly, at this point, they should have just done, like, a Spock, like, Vulcan pinch, and she's magically, like, converted.
There
Like,
you go.
this is a little too cheesy, guys. We've gone too a little too far. Should have done a little more here.
Got to do something where
But I'm
like
scared.
explain what you're doing. I'm reaching underneath her, I don't know, her backbone into the something like, or he could like say what he's doing, but no, it's
Like,
just
at this point, this is where we should have had the abrupt cut.
bingo. I always feel like the director must have said, like Robert was like, so what do I do here? I don't know, make something up, just kind of poke at her and make it look good. And okay. Good thing he wasn't
Spock
wearing
would do.
his Freddy gloves at that point. I guess maybe he's totally different movie at
And,
that point.
Robin's in that.
Robin. Oh, this was a good scene for her. She didn't really talk very much, so it was okay.
I didn't even understand, like, in terms of, like, the director, was that the best convulsion she could do? Because that's not really what.
You've never
Okay.
seen an alien convulse, so you don't know that's what it is. It's the alien convulsing, so it's
You
different
know
than
what? I've
normal.
never seen a lizard have a seizure. This is a fact. So maybe I'm completely wrong.
That could be it. It's fair. It's a fair statement. So, all right, we go back out into. By the way, just so you know, my note was Willie helps her despite having just had surgery. Somehow Willie just knows. Okay, what to do.
Well, he
Uh,
is Willie, so we can never underestimate him.
that's true. It's very true. So we got to planning the raid. They're planning the raid out on this water treatment plan. And I got to tell you, that's some good security footage they have for 1980s. It's like clear as day, spot on footage that they have of this kid. Donovan calls it this kid who looks like he's at least 35. This kid getting killed by the aliens as part of this is what's going to happen to us if we get caught in this beam or whatever. Which
I didn't even think about how good the footage was. I'm the product of my time. That didn't even occur to me.
it's funny because I notice that kind of stuff a lot of times, especially you see stuff on TV. It's always obviously not a TV showing it. It's like obviously a thing. Like later on, there's actually a TV scene which looks a little better, like more like an 80s TV screen. I don't know why they didn't do it this way, but either way, it is what it is. Not a big deal. But I do like that we do have the Star Wars Episode 1 syndrome of the laser gates that kind of have to shut down for a little bit before coming back and recharging and coming on. Um, and we have the new explosives. I almost wanted to research on this, but I didn't want to get this on my Google, my looking up explosives too
Oh,
much. So, what is this kind of thing where the bombs that are the new type of bomb, which is only stable between 60 degrees and 72 degrees?
you know what it reminded me of, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about as an Ed Harris fan, as a Nick Cage fan. The Rock.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. That's absolutely true. The VX gas. That's true. Maybe that's what it is. It's the precursor to VX gas. Okay. The whole scene just makes much more sense to me. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Here to help. Here to spread the word of Cage and Harris.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So we get the plan in place of what they're going to do. It's a very vague plan. We don't need to know all of it. They're going to go in, they're going to bomb the place and get out. And this is where we get to the next sequence, which we were about to talk about earlier. Maggie and Mark working out their differences, and so to speak.
Mark kills them.
Yes, Mark does kill them entirely by asking her to marry him
Death sentence.
when they
Instant
get back.
death sentence.
When we get back. Really, Mark? Really?
But also cue the soap opera music once again.
It's amazing. The difference in the score is amazing. From the
Yes,
Carpenter's
it's
thing to this thing,
very
it's like,
startling.
is this the same guy? Like, what is happening here?
It honestly, it felt like the kind of like free music you can get to use on things.
You know, you're not wrong. I wonder if the guy they ran out of budget for him. He said, just score the action scenes. We got this love music down. We'll just throw this in there in terms of love scene. We got some old
Like
soap
the
operas.
Wilhelm scream of like elevator music.
Oh, there we go. They use the Wilhelm music. That's what we'll call this at this point.
Yeah.
I love it. So yes, they are definitely in trouble. We know that from the get-go, and we go to the water plant raid. Now, I enjoy the water plant raid quite a bit as an action sequence. It's one of the better action sequences we have because we have the kind of a beginning, middle, and end part that all kind of makes sense. We follow it all along as we do. We get some good character moments throughout. Julie having a little trouble with the conversion thing. She actually misses the guy she's supposed to shoot at first, and she kind of like hesitates just enough. I mean, she kind of that's all we get from her. There's time she's with Donovan, so Donovan and her are a team now. And there's pretty much machismo galore for this entire sequence. It's about who can up badass another person, and they're not even in the same room still. You got like
Yes, ridiculous. So the bombs are stable in a certain temperature. I think it's 60 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yep.
And it's just a series of people like testing the temperature and going, okay, we're really close to the temperature, but we're gonna do it anyway because Ham Tyler's and Chris Farber are not gonna get the best of us.
That's right. That's what it is. I find that they have the good moment. I mentioned it before, Chris, because at first you see Caleb going, this stuff's bubbling. You sure about that? And Ham's like, just keep going. And he tells Chris, like, how are we, by the way? Chris like, yeah, I got 72 degrees. He doesn't stop at all. He's not even worried about it. Things could blow up in his hand. He's like, whatever.
I don't know how familiar you are with The Last Starfighter, but he really reminds me of Greg, where he's just like so gung ho about battle.
I'll figure out that plan when we get to the final frontier. What's that? The final frontier.
I've always wanted to die in a battle against all the odds.
Oh, I love The Last Starfighter. I haven't watched that in a while. I'll have to watch that again soon. But beyond that, it is funny again, like how I keep mentioning, it's the Mark one that gets me the most. Mark and Maggie are together. And Mark's like pushing. She's like, it's 17 degrees. Oh my God. And he actually has a line. I think they write down the actual line where he says, oh, I can play ball with Tyler anytime. Tyler has nothing to do with the bombs at 72 degrees at this point, dude. Like, yeah. You versus the bomb, and now you versus Tyler here. You could play ball by letting it go to 75 and blowing your head off. Like, that's your playing ball? Really, Mark?
No, I've said it before, but I will say it again. Brad would never.
Brad is the guy who, when Elias came out of the battle and was like, shit, they ain't so tough. And Brad certainly goes, are you nuts? Are you crazy? Because he's realistic. He's confident in he's confident in his badassery. Like, he's badass to a degree, but he's like, that's his level.
He's a 71 and no higher kind of guy.
Bingo. Absolutely. Then we get the battle sequence. And speaking of the score, I'll give it again. This is where the score is good again. It's a good battle score. We got some great shootouts. Donovan, of course. Mark Singer, I might have a man crush on him. I got to be honest with you. As far as this goes, but he always makes these laser fight shootouts just look good. I don't know if it's like the poses he does or if it's like the way he shoots. He just makes it look good comparatively to some. Anyways,
yeah, I would agree with that. It's kind of like some people just know how to run in movies.
Absolutely. There's like the Tom Cruise running, and then there's everybody else, pretty much, honestly speaking. But
Phoebe and Friends. Yeah.
There you go. Now, I was looking for a good example. That's probably the best example. There you go. It's funny, like Robert is doing some shooting. He does not. He actually looks like a scientist who shouldn't be shooting. When he just starts throwing the gun down there, just shooting at anything. You can feel like the gun's like kicking back, and he's not hitting anybody. That's what kind of feels like to me, where he's like running along the things.
He's
That's,
doing his best. Listen, we don't know what his eyesight is.
that's true.
He might need a new prescription. Can you get one? No.
That's right. He can't. He's a scientist, especially. Not that that matters at this part of the.
Oh,
That's all.
man.
But it is a great action sequence, and we get to the end of the action sequence. They get back into the tunnel. They're going to leave. They're at the staircase. They're having a big shootout where Donovan's trusting in that the visitors are shooting like stormtroopers, because he's just kind of like sitting there and right in the middle of going, oh yeah, I'm just gonna stand here and just start shooting you, not running, not doing anything. He has to do it.
I mean, main character plot armor. He knows he has it. He is actively aware he has it.
If anyone is, it is definitely Donovan. But we do have a moment which was predicted as soon as Mark invoked the marriage. That's what's going to happen as soon as they got back. Mark gets shot going down the stairs, and I love this moment here because once again, in a very rare case, as far as the writers go in this part of the saga, they go subtle with it. They don't overdo it. There was such an easy temptation for him, Tyler, and Mark to share a mutual respect, like kind of moment. We don't get that. We get
No.
Chris grabbing Maggie out of the way, and Maggie screaming her head off as he's trying to drag her away. Ham just kind of gets down, lows down, takes out the clip. Yep, this is your job. Go do it. That's it. I love that about it. I love that about Michael Ironside choosing not to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that works perfect for both of their characters.
Yeah.
Because Mark's just a little monster, and that's just not who it's just not who Tyler is.
Nice.
It's just not who his character is at all.
Yeah.
But in his own way, that is him being respectful.
Yeah, absolutely. I shouldn't say he wasn't being disrespectful. He was basically saying, okay, this is your job and you're going to do it. I trust you to cover us, kind of thing. I trust you to do your job. That's as respectful as Ham Tyler needs to get. He's not saying I like you anymore now. You don't like me, but you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and good on you. But it's just a subtle thing. Mark doesn't actually last very long. He goes up, shoots like 2 more seconds, and tries to change the clip that Ham gave him, the extra clip, and doesn't even get the clip out because he gets shot at that point.
Because he did not have that Mark Singer plot armor.
Mark Singer plot armor. It's not that Mark plot armor. Mark does not have Mark Singer plot armor.
He does not, because he is Mark with a K, not Mark with a C.
That's what it is. It must be the C. The C is a special one there. But that was an overall fun action sequence. I really did like that one. What did you think about that one?
I really just don't pay a lot of attention to action sequences, if I'm being 100% honest. But
That's
I
fair.
did notice the explosion, and I wrote down great detail.
I was saving it for this. Go ahead, please go ahead.
Okay, so the explosions go off, and it's a water pumping station. So it's basically a dam, and it causes a flood. There were some interesting, I don't think they were intentionally day for night shots. It was just bad video grading, which I think this is footage they got from something else and they were trying to mess with. There was clearly some very bad miniatures. I mean, there was so much going on. All these clips were very short, and there were a lot of them. And they weren't that great or well put together. The color light and the lighting and the shading, the tint didn't match. The color correction didn't match well. It was kind of a mess. But they did what they could, but it was not.
They were obviously trying to save some money here in the best way they could. They couldn't have an explosion of dams, but yes, there's scenes from other movies at different points or old standbys. They have like bridges that are going down. You're not wrong. It looks awful. And there's this weird, I actually noticed it too. One of those silly things that probably aren't even worth noticing, but stuff that I noticed. The beginning part of the dam sequence that goes, we get this focus on like a jacket that's like hanging on some kind of broken piece of wall. And like in my little head, I'm kind of, is that Mark's jacket? Is that what they're trying to show us here? I don't get what's going on here. This brown or whatever. I don't know what it's there. It means absolutely nothing and doesn't come back into play. So I don't know what it was.
No, yeah, it's just a lot of strangeness.
Yeah, it's very strange indeed. But there we are with the last big action sequence to a degree. You go back to the base again. The
And
base.
cue the soap music.
Cue the soap music. Julie is going to console Maggie first in the background. We get a
Yep.
little more of Donovan and Julie, and they have the talk.
Oh, wait,
About
before that, I need to mention that Donovan is wearing the tightest pants I have ever seen on a man in my life. They are a second layer of epidermis.
You're not wrong. I actually felt a little pain in my groin when I was looking at it. I'm kind of like that. That's not comfortable. You can't walk around. You can't move around in that.
And he never had children. I didn't look it up, but I'm assuming he never had children.
I don't believe he did. I don't know for sure, but I don't think he did. That would
This
probably
is
be the
why.
reason why. If he did, then he is, then man, then his sperm can fight through some things. Then if that's the case,
Some
because
tight places. So, yeah, Julie is being very pessimistic, but also very pragmatic.
yeah, very
Um,
much so. Especially given her confusion of who she is right now. She's still trying to go through that, which again, it's not very well done. It's very come and go as needed. But if you want to play with the idea where is she converted or not, that's a good time to bring it up where she's like, I can't even commit to you. I can't even know. I don't know who I am right now, kind of thing.
I love Donovan's line because he's ever the optimist. And he says, without something to live for, people give up hope.
That's right.
Really,
And that's very, very Donovan. But then the conversation is interrupted by Polly. We get a little bit of Polly finally yelling to Mr. Donovan, Mr. Donovan. Again, I'm always pointing out these little things, and I do it out of love because I love Mark Singer. Like the shot goes back to Mike and Julie, and Mike does this thing where he's like points at her before running. It's like this overdone thing he does. He always has to be doing something with his hands that like don't necessarily always make sense. Like,
oh, I never noticed that.
it's like I don't know what it is about him because he just seems to always want to do
Yeah.
something with his
Well,
hand.
clearly, I think it's because he can't put his hands in his pockets.
Because his hand is right in his
He
pocket. He
does
takes it
not
out. He's like,
use them.
he's like, oh. It's like, yeah, we all see it, Mike. It's like almost like he's pointing it out to Julie when the girl's running right at them, screaming. It's like, do you see this girl running at us?
Oh man, I'm definitely gonna be watching that next time.
Always watch for Mark Singer's hand gestures. They're always there and they're always golden.
Because I see a lot, like he usually has it by like his gun holster.
Yep. Yeah, he does do a lot of that. He just
Yeah.
it's fun though. It is a fun game. I almost want to make it. I want to make a drinking game out of it. I don't know quite how to do it. Am I going to figure that out in the future? We go into the other part of the base and we see on the TV screen that Diana and Steven have Sean. And that's where the case is. They're announcing that this little boy wandered into our headquarters alone. Right.
Yeah, I very much turned into General Akbar. I'm like, it's a trap.
It's a trap. Right. Everyone knows that. The one thing I do want to point out here that I actually noticed, and I don't know if I noticed before, but I love Caleb and Father Andrew's faces because they come running in. Obviously, the bulletin's been kind of repeated a few times, and they just kind of like look directly at Mike with a stoic face, as in like because the noise is like the lines are playing and they're not like looking at the TV at all. They're just looking at Mike for his reaction because they know what's going down. And they're like the old men of the group, like, the grandfathers of the group. So I kind of feel like they have this like relationship that they built with the rest of the crew. And it's a silly thing, I guess, but I just noticed that and liked their reaction there. So good on them. Good on Caleb and Father Andrew.
Well, Caleb and Robert are really the only other parents. And of course, Robert lost his wife, but Caleb lost his son.
Yeah.
So he knows exactly what that's like. And I think, obviously his son died, but if he had an opportunity, if his son had only been abducted, I think he would have had similar feelings of I would have done anything to have gotten him back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good little sequence. Of course, Donovan's like, "Yep, I'm going." No doubt in our mind that Donovan, like Julie, wouldn't have. I don't think Julie would have let him. I think Julie would have. I don't think Cam would have. But Donovan, they're not stupid enough to know that Donovan's not gonna. There's no way they can not stop Donovan.
Now listen, I mean, Robert also went through the same thing with Robin. Now, Sean is no Robin, but he's also no Polly.
That's true. That's true. Although, interestingly enough, I think if we had gotten a little more time with Sean, we might have been able to fall from a little bit more, at least old Sean, because obviously, spoiler alert, we learned very quickly that Sean has been converted. Diana
From
mentions
the
it.
moment he woke up, I knew what was about to happen.
Right. I mean, Diana makes it pretty clear in the conversation during the next segment too. His greatest word, or his greatest, what is the word? I forget what word she says. His greatest usefulness is all my doing, or something to that effect. But yeah, in this case, Sean is no Polly though. But at the same time, Donovan's not gonna. Donovan would run off.
It's his son.
His son. This is what has been his motivation the entire time. Very same throughout. The thing I love about this, though, they have a setup where they're exchanging. I don't know how they got the information to each other, but they're exchanging in this like tunnel.
It's at Griffith Park.
At Griffith Park. Is it okay? So you've been there? Okay, nice, very nice. Do you know the exact tunnel?
Yeah, it's like it's a path.
Okay,
like a walking trail.
Gotcha. Cool. That's so cool you've been there. I wish I might have to go there just to say I'd be like, I know. Is it still there? Is it still there like that? I don't even know.
I mean, it's been a while since I was there, but
true. Looks might go out there maybe. I love myself some lore when they drop lore down, like whether it's in sci-fi or whatever, Star Wars. So here, I love the fact that Ham announced himself, and Steven says something like, "You're loud. You must be the one they call the Fixer."
Yeah, I got questions about this. I need to know. I need that Eleanor has told him all this. That she has read him on all of her son's exploits, and she's been helping.
Hey, my own wonder is this the guy, because Ham was involved in this worldwide organization, has this worldwide organization done more damage somewhere? And he actually has a code name from the visitors who have called him the Fixer. And now Steven's like, oh, the Fixer has come to Los Angeles. Like, this must be the Fixer or something. I don't know what it is. Either way.
Interesting.
I love the little
very
drop.
curious.
Right.
I wish we know what Steven does on his days off. Where is he getting all this information?
That's a great question. But okay, so we got the exchange. Sean goes with Donovan and Sean have a nice reunion in the middle. Donovan tells me he needs a haircut, and Sean goes off with people who he has no idea who they are because he's never met them before. But he's quick to go with Julie. I guess out of daddy say so. I guess. And then Donovan gets brought back up to the mothership again. And we finally get to meet a fifth columnist who is not Martin or a blonde.
Yes, another man, Oliver.
Oliver, who I love. And I'm very sad that we don't get more time with Oliver.
And he immediately gets killed.
Right. I'm oh, because in the 2 minutes we have with Oliver, I like him. I kind of want to get more from him. I wish we had seen more from him.
He could have been another Martin.
Could have been, absolutely. Oliver comes and tries to give Donovan a suicide pill because the truth serum that Diana has developed. And there's your, they're not going to go with any kind of alien interrogation sequence. No,
so much easier. I feel like Mark Singer was like, I'm not getting into that leotard.
No.
Write something else.
The tight jeans are all I get. I'll do.
Also, I gave you the shirtless scene. That was it.
There you go. That's a contractual thing. You either get the leotard or the shirtless scene. Pick one. You can't have both. And we do get the truth serum scene, which was a fun one. I wish we had a little more time with it. I kind of
wonder Diana's motivation. Why does she want to convert Julie and just give Donovan the truth serum? What does she see as the difference between these two?
That's a great question. I mean, I think I have a couple kind of answers. Of course, she was going to convert Donovan back in the original. So maybe she's like, you know what? I can't deal with the conversion. Martin's going to break him out, or the fifth column is going to break him out, or something. I don't know. But why the difference? Because why didn't they give Julie the truth serum? Is the truth serum that new that it happened in between Julie's breakout and Donovan's capture? Because Julie could have told him all about this. As far as Diana knows, Julie would have known the fifth column contact. So you're not wrong. I don't know why they didn't give Julie the truth serum. As far as Donovan getting converted, my argument about that would be that she's already converted Sean, so we don't need to convert Mike at this point. He already has their mole in the resistance, because if you convert Mike and you set him free, it's a mole in the resistance. You already have that, so let's worry about getting the fifth column activity. And you know what? Let me continue with that. The fifth column activity is what caused Julie to go in the first place.
Confused, but like the mole, like Sean as the mole, only works if Donovan is still there. So taking him really didn't make sense.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Maybe they assume that maybe Diana.
And also, if they have him and they're giving him truth serum, why do they even need the mole going forward?
That's a good point too.
Especially a kid who's not going to know as much information as an adult.
Well, I know that
leader.
You kind of find out that he does have a mission. He does try to learn things for Diana. He's supposed to report potentially to Eleanor. I think that's kind of it. Maybe he'll report what he can see. But you're not wrong that they should have probably either converted both. I do think the fifth column thing weighs on her mind after Julie gets freed. I think that's where the fifth column became like more than just a nuisance to her. So at this point, she has Donovan now. She knows that Donovan must have contact with the fifth column. He was broken out with the fifth column before. So let's find out what the fifth column lied at this point. We're going to use Donovan, use the truth serum to figure out what's going on with this stuff. Of course, by opening up with the fifth column thing, this is something actually a smart interrogator would have done. You almost don't want to open up with the fifth column in case what happens is that the fifth column's there with you. Open up with something else, all the rest and stuff, all other secrets you can give away. The end with the fifth column's thing, just in case. But I did like the scene. I wanted to get more from it though, because it was definitely seeing Diana and Donovan go back and forth would have been fun. It was already fun just getting a little bit. What color is your hair, Mr. Donovan?
Blue.
Mark's got he's got a great delivery of that. Of course, once she gets the brown in there, that's it. It's already done, and she asks him the question about who his contact is. And I think it's a well performed. But Donovan does the old. He looks at him a couple of times. He's like, I can't say it. Martin. And then we get some of the worst shooting in the history of science fiction. That scene since Greedo shot first in the special editions of Star Wars. The guard is literally like 2 feet away, shoots over Martin's head.
I think he was also fifth column. At least you could get that excuse, whereas the stormtroopers, I just don't know.
That's a good question. That's a good point. Maybe. But then Martin has a clear shot at Diana pretty much and still misses her. So it's like it's a little too tight.
Then we get back into the air vents. How do they not have locks on those yet?
Yeah, and these air vents are huge. That's all I gotta say. It makes
sense.
They
are bigger than the New York subway system, too.
That's right. That's what he says.
I'm befuddled. I mean, I feel like, Diana, all of your problems could have been resolved if you just put locks on your vents.
That's right. Some kind of security lock, some kind of coding system that only like certain people can get.
Screw them closed, like a normal place would.
And then we go back to our final scene in the episode, probably the most famous scene in V, I think.
Yeah,
overall. The one that's lasted the longest.
They really go heavy with it on the marketing.
Yes, it's almost every marketing aspect. We get the delivery, which it's funny. I looked at the time, like it takes place in about 4 minutes. I'm like, really? The whole scene takes place in 4 minutes. That's including credits. Like right now, like looking at it, I'm like, holy shit, how does it all take place so quickly? But it does. And it's a good scene overall, I think, for the 80s especially. You gotta add that caveat to it. It's obviously a little different. I do like Elizabeth comes first, and we get the normal baby. They give it to
The
grandpa,
reptilian tongue.
and then we get the definitively a doll, and we get to see the reptilian tongue come out,
I
which is
wrote the first okay, she has twins.
Mhm.
It's a human looking girl with a reptilian tongue. And of course, Robin freaks out again. Second
Right.
baby, it's a reptile looking puppet. Godzilla Jr. is alive.
With the human eyes. That's the hybrid angle. That's where you get the human eyes for the visitor. That's the big difference. It feels like a bad horror movie when the alien comes out. I'm not gonna lie. The Elizabeth thing is okay. When the aliens are crawling out and Julie has to give the like, what is it?
Oh my
I don't know. I don't know. And he just crawls out on his own. I felt like I was watching In Search of Darkness. Uh,
it was yeah, there was a choice.
it was a choice.
There was
I
a choice.
do I do forgive it. It's NBC, less budget.
I don't
Was
really think
tough to pull.
that's the issue. I really have a lot of questions. Like, was it an animatronic? I like to think it was like a Kermit, like
Yeah,
Muppet. They like reached out. I really
Robin,
don't know. It
open
was
your legs a
not.
little bit and the hand's gonna come out in between. Like
I mean, it kind of looks like someone was controlling it with their hand, like a
it
puppet,
does.
like that.
You're
It
not
is
wrong.
bad. Like this, they did not have Jim Henson money.
No, they did not. Jim Henson
But
or
yeah,
Tom Savini or somebody could have done
I'll
better job.
I'll give it a little credit and say, the 80s were a hell of a drug.
There you go. That's the best way to say
Yeah,
it.
definitely Tom Savini. I think more would be in line with something like Rick Baker, but
Baker.
um, the Gremlins 2, this was not.
No, it definitely wasn't. Yeah.
Gremlins 1, this was not.
Oh, that's for damn sure. That's for damn sure. But it is memorable. I'll give it that. It is definitely memorable. But that's how we end part two of the final battle. And so where we stand going into the final chapter of the final battle, we have Donovan and Martin loose aboard the mothership trying to escape. We have Robin, who's given birth now to twins. We have an alien and human hybrids both. Um,
I mean, of
Ash,
course, they're both alien human hybrid. I
yes,
feel like the choice to visually make them representations of that was kind of unnecessary. But also, I'm just not a fan of gynecological horror.
okay, that makes sense. I think they did that specifically because of what's coming up in the fifth one, because of how they developed the red dust. It made sense that the more human side is one way and the more alien side is the other. But I agree. It's kind of a strange choice to make, and they spend the rest of the series and whole thing trying to make Elizabeth not look anything like an alien at all. She is very humanized for the rest of the show, pretty much.
The whole Elizabeth thing is very. I
No,
don't.
it's a choice.
It's a choice. I don't think it was a good one.
No, I will say, I mean, I remember during my interview and talking with Kenneth Johnson, he had written about Elizabeth was one of his ideas, but it was not to be the Elizabeth that we got. It was just supposed to
Yes,
be a kind of symbol, kind of what Father Andrew had said, like a symbol that they could potentially live together, the
but she
humans and the
wasn't
humans
meant
together.
to be the fire starter.
She was not meant to be Firestarter or a Jedi or a Deus Ex Machina every chance that she gets as it comes. And you think it's bad during the final battle. The weekly series is even worse.
Oh, I do remember that from the weekly series vividly.
It was like every week is how can Elizabeth get us out of this danger next? And Elizabeth, also the great thing about it, is funny thing is, I hope I'm not spoiling too much. If you haven't watched this, you probably should be watching this before you talk to everybody. Come watch us. But man, she developed a new power every week. It seemed in the series. It's like,
And
what
I
can she
mean,
do
that's
this week?
not necessarily wrong. We saw something similar with, Clark Kent and Smallville, but they spaced it out a little.
Yeah, they spaced it out a little, and the fact is, like, we had more of a reason. They actually gave us a reason why it was happening. The whole Krypton being, the yellow sun, that kind of
Yeah, because none of the visitors have powers.
Right. So where are these powers coming from? I don't know. I guess in my head, I tried to make, even as a young kid, I tried to justify it and said, well, Diana did some medical experiments on her. Maybe the medical experiments gave her some latent powers or something to that effect. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't fully.
No, it does not work very well. I'm not going to lie. I think we'll obviously talk about part 3 next time. I do think you can almost get away with it once to a degree because I do end up liking the final battle as a whole. But it is definitively an interesting choice that definitely changes the rest of the franchise and not necessarily for the better. But that's next time. That's really next time. Any last minute thoughts on this episode?
Last minute thoughts. Oh goodness. If your budget, if you can't do it right, maybe do something different.
Mm,
Life advice
good
from
call.
B.
Good call. Warner Brothers really, the further I get into the final battle, and overall, I do like the final battle. I do have a
Yes,
good time with it.
same.
I think it's worthy of a watch. It's definitely a step down from the original miniseries, what the miniseries had set up. But at the end of the day, it does make me, the further I get into it, I really would have loved to have seen what Kenneth Johnson had in mind for his sequel miniseries, what he would have done differently, and how things would have been presented. And how things would have been if they didn't try to dumb it down. I don't mind dumbing it down because I love my big dumb action movies, so it fits well enough for me. But I do think we have a missed opportunity to see what Kenneth
Yeah,
Johnson
and
would
it's
do.
not even just the dumbing down, but it's the kind of erasure of the original intent.
Yes, that's that, and that's it. It went hand in hand because the original intent, they dumbed it down because they didn't think that the original intent was needed, and that was kind of like, well, that's the whole point. That's why it was so powerful, because people saw themselves in these characters and put themselves in these situations. What would you do? Now we're just more of like a popcorn. All right, let's see how they fight back. That's
I mean,
fun.
even like I'm assuming you know the original character of Ham Tyler.
Yes.
Yeah, like even just that change to like
Mhm.
to remove a character who was originally supposed to be differently abled
Yep.
and have him be Michael Ironside,
Yep.
an action guy.
Yeah. Ken
Is
Johnson had a great talk about that. He had a conversation. How cool would it be in the opening sequence? Donovan was going to hit Han Tyler. And he's like, how great of a scene is that? Because you never see your hero hit a guy in a wheelchair. And yet Ham did like a wheelie and knocks Donovan on his ass. And like, it's like this great thing. Like, he showed Ham and being in a wheelchair, being differently abled, being something, a positive force for good. Of course, you bring in Michael Ironside, and he actually, in the interview, he mentions like Michael Ironside kind of balked at that a little bit. It's like, my name is Ironside. You can't put me in a wheelchair, because he's like Ironsides. It's like it's the actual character of Ironside have been too much for too meta, I guess, for him in a way. Which is not to say, 'cause, I mean, Michael Ironside is one of my favorite parts about the final battle. But it is, to your point, would have been interesting to see him be that kind of character and to be a different kind of character like that.
definitely. I kind of wish they had stuck to that though.
Yeah.
This seems
Yeah.
more interesting. Like, every time we talk about like Kenneth Johnson's like original like intentions and stuff like that, like man, I wish they'd done that because it seems
Yeah.
like
Yeah, you're not wrong. There's a couple of things. I mean, he mentioned it before. He never actually watched the whole final battle. He caught a couple of things on TV. He was passing through, and some of his friends from the original like talked to him about what they had chosen and what they did, and it was definitely not what he would have done in a way. And it's sad because he had such a great vision for the first one. I really think that we definitely are missing out. And it's a studio. It's a studio's fault for pushing
yeah.
it.
I generally
Unfortunately.
think a lot of times when shows kind of change their not necessarily like their original intention, but I feel like when there's such an abrupt kind of turn, like if you didn't watch the final battles, you just watched B and then you watched the miniseries, I think you would be really taken aback by the shift tonally.
Yeah.
And I just imagine, oh, someone sat this show in front of a room of 14-year-old boys and then just jotted down their feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it feels like. It does feel that way. Soap operas were in. laser guns and soap operas. That's pretty much what it turned into, and it's everything that Ken Johnson didn't want it to be. Ken Johnson began this not even being sci-fi. He wanted to tell a story of fascism and a story of people. And the laser guns happened to come along as the vehicle to do it. The aliens, the sci-fi aspect was the vehicle to tell the story we wanted to tell, and it became what it was about instead. The sci-fi aspect became what it was about instead. The action sci-fi side turned to it. The characters overall had some moments. Still, Donovan still has a good feel for the character. I feel Ruby had some great moments. We've now lost her. Julie is a little lesser, and in some ways she's strong, but in some ways she's lesser because of the idea where we don't know where she is or what she's doing as far as the conversion thing goes. It kind of almost ruins the character to a degree.
Yeah, I felt it really, particularly going forward, ruins the character,
right.
in my opinion. But I, on a side note, really like Maggie.
Yeah, I think Maggie was underutilized. I think that Maggie would have been. I think the situation with Mark was actually end up being limiting to her because it kind of put her in this.
I feel like they should have thrown her in the spotlight, but obviously, like the other things happened. But I feel like that's unfortunate because she could have been a really interesting character, being that kind of like double agent.
Yeah.
And then even Elias is kind of taking a back seat.
Yeah, you can tell he's not doing the same thing. Or Caleb's taking a back seat at this point. Sancho's definitely taking a back seat.
Yeah,
He's
there's a
just
lot of
window
characters
dressing
we
at this point.
recognize that just aren't really getting screen time per se. They're just kind of in the background.
Yeah, we're getting Donovan. We're getting Donovan being Captain America in a way, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely less layered than we want it to be. Ham, Tyler, and Chris, though, definitely steal this episode from me. And they are great introductions to the series. And I'm really glad that they did come on. Even if Ham is not in the wheelchair like originally planned, I still get Michael Ironside and Mickey Jones with some great camaraderie. And Michael Ironside and Mark Singer have some great camaraderie as well. Yeah, so that's kind of where we leave off. We're in a situation where we have to figure out what's going to happen with some of these characters. Some of them got to get their comeuppance. At this point, that's what Daniel's there for. Like, let's see how we can make him suffer at this point. But yeah, are you looking forward to the finale?
I mean, definitely. Like, if you leave me at a to be continued, I'm always like, all right, well, I gotta know. It is a fun show.
Right.
It's just not necessarily up to the same quality.
Right. I have to say, more and more, I'm actually very interested in going through the weekly series with you, because the final battle is good, and via the weekly series, I'm never going to ever try to say it's good. I do have a lot of nostalgia for it because I definitely was a 9-year-old boy getting my sci-fi lizards, laser guns kind of thing. So I'm going to need you to help call me out on what is actually really bad, because I'll probably be very more forgiving than I should be at times.
So I haven't watched it since I was 18.
Right. So I'm interested to see how you react to it. I will not. I will call things out when I see them, and I am not going to try to hide and say. I try not to polish a turd too much. But I do have fun with it overall. I'm not going to lie. So,
I mean, to be clear, I like garbage. So honestly, generally speaking, the worse something is, the more fun I'm probably going to have with it.
And
I remember it wasn't boring, and that's the only thing I never want my movie or television to be. So as long as it's not boring.
And I will say, I actually have a book I was reading that tells a lot of details of what was going on behind the scenes, which kind of tells you why things went awry to a degree. But also, I will say about the weekly series is that there's a lot of good ideas that on paper feel like they could work, that they just didn't get to execute properly for various reasons. Budget being one of them for sure. But yeah, that's it. That's not going to happen next time. No, next time we do have the final episode of the final battle, which obviously isn't so final after all. But it is a lot of fun. I do like this final act. Gets a lot of good action time, some good character beats as well, and I can't wait to do that as well. So that will be soon enough. Actually, it should air next week if my schedule goes the right way the right way I have it planned out. Hopefully, I'm not lying to you. We'll find out, I guess. That'll happen soon, though. So, where can the folks find you, Lego?
I can be found at Legoland13, which is written down below. I do a lot of talking about horror movies generally, and then on Twitter you can find me at not Twitter. I'm so sorry, Instagram. You can find me at Cage and Least. I'm beginning a Nicolas Cage podcast, which by the time this airs, my first episode will probably have aired on that. So you can find the link to that there. So hopefully it's listenable.
Oh, it will be. You talking about Cage is eminently listenable. I'll tell you that much. Definitely. And I want to check out your horror series as well when you start doing more horror stuff. I always love your horror series. Your stuff on Halloween.
Like my 4 hours, yeah.
It's very good. You can find me at Paul _ on Twitter. You can find me all over PLD Projects here. I have a weekly Star Wars show called Holy Snopes. I have a bi-weekly show with PJ Campbell, Two Mediocre White Dudes on Film, where we're going through all movie franchises. I'm not sure where we are right now because considering where we're airing, we're probably doing Indiana Jones still, the Indiana Jones series leading up to Dial of Destiny. We're doing John Wick after that. And then we will get into the Friday the 13th saga. All of them. He's back. Which actually includes Jennifer Cook in the 6th film, who is Elizabeth in the weekly series. But we'll get there to for that comparison. But also you can find me doing a Queen podcast here. I'm doing so much. I do so much. Just check out PLD Projects. You'll see all the things we do here. But if you want to help us support the channel, you can click that click that subscribe. We are about 412 subscribers when I'm recording this. So we're on the march to 500. It's a very modest goal I have. We're getting there slowly but surely. So I appreciate that. If you want to support the channel even further, PLD Products, patreon.com/PLD Projects, where you can join Austin Cadell, Jeremiah Morris, Maddie Kearns, Brennan Buckingham, and Jeff Alterman, and a bunch of others. Can't do it without you. We appreciate all you do. You help keep the lights on and help keep this going. But I guess that will do it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with part 3. Until then, Prete Nama.